Welcome to CVR English. This is Bharat. Today our guest is Dr. Bharat Kumar Reddy. He is a psychiatrist. Hello, sir.
Hello.
What is the difference between psychology and a psychiatrist?
Psychologist is basically somebody with a non-medical degree. So it's like somebody doing a BA or MA in psychology and studying about psychology. But psychiatrist is a proper doctor. So he is a MBBS doctor who does specialization in psychiatry, where we learn about both psychology and the medical part of psychology. So that's the difference between psychiatrist and psychologist. Psychologist, that's what I'm saying. So if psychologists cannot prescribe medicines, so they are only allowed to do counseling or therapy. But for a psychiatrist, he can do both. So he can prescribe medicines. He can also do counseling.
Okay. You have your own clinic in Hyderabad, right?
Yeah.
So since how long you are in practicing?
In psychiatry, I've been nearly 20 years, but my first 15 years I was in London. So in Hyderabad, it's just been 5 years now. So this is my 5th year since I come back to my beloved country.
Okay.
So first 15 years I was in a different place, different environment. Now I'm settled and adjusted to my place now.
So, when did you decided to become psychiatrist?
See, the thing is, I still remember when I was in my first year of medicine, my grandfather felt very sick, and then we had to take him to hospital. And because we were all young children and all the family members, the amount of tension that we felt and the distress the family was having. So I was wondering what can be done to us, because all the focus usually is on the patients, how they feel, because physically if they are sick. But the amount of trauma, the emotional disturbances the entire family goes through was quite overwhelming. And that's when I thought, perhaps there is something else we can learn, just not physical health. So just on a casual note, I spoke with my professor that this is something I was feeling, and he was very surprised. And he said there is something called psychiatry where you only learn more on mental health.
Okay.
So that was like a spark. I thought, okay. And because of the social stigma attached with, people call us mental doctors or mad doctors and this and that. So everybody was surprised that I was choosing that career right from my first year, because most of the time, by the time we finish our final year, many of the doctors prefer other specialties. Okay. Even now, just less than 4% show interest in psychiatry. So when I was talking about getting into psychiatry right from the beginning, so I was thought that this fellow is odd right from the beginning. That was the reaction from my friends and colleagues and my fellow students. But I choose the career because I really wanted to, and I'm happy now. So I have no regrets for taking this topic, despite having all the social stigma with it.
Okay. Which college you studied in, sir?
I did my MBBS in SV Medical College in Tirupati.
In Tirupati.
So I finished my medicine MBBS there, then I finished my MD there.
Okay.
And then I wrote exams to go to UK, and then I finished my higher studies in UK, settled down as consultant in London.
Okay. What are your favorite subjects?
Still, I can say my first favorite is psychiatry only.
Psychiatry.
And then if you go beyond that, I used to enjoy anesthesia as well.
Okay. And
then some amount of sociology was also interesting for me, because philosophy, sociology and psychiatry, they grow very closely, they run parallel almost. So we need to know a bit of philosophy, bit of psychology, sociology, so add on all together, then it becomes a psychiatry. So these were some of the interesting subjects I had in my career, and that's what I used to learn and enjoy.
And what are the subjects which come under psychiatry?
Well, basically psychiatry is about learning about human mind. And now, mind being a complex structure, it's not easy to know what exactly mind works and how it works, what it does. Okay. It's not like you can do some physical test and say you have this problem, that problem. So you need to have that analytical mind to understand the man sitting, woman sitting in front of you, understand his, his mind, try to know what's going wrong in his mind by purely analyzing him. Okay. So that analysis is what you learn in psychiatry. So it's not like some medical other specialty. For example, you can say by simple blood test that you have diabetes, or I can do some tests and say you can have a high blood pressure. So these are very easy to do. So do a scan and you can say there's a tumor in the brain. It's very easy. But for a psychiatrist, it's not like that. So there is no test to test the mind. So this is something very complex, beyond science at the moment. We don't know what would have come out in future, maybe in 50, 100 years, but as of now it's beyond, science can really reach to. So being a very complex structure, it's not easy to analyze that kind of structure unless you have some basic, very foundational training in psychology associated with that medicine also. Once you learn the subject, and as you start seeing people, then you start gaining experience, then obviously by the time you reach to a certain level, you will have hands-on experience and hands-on knowledge on how to analyze a person based on the symptoms, or based on how they talk about their problems, or based on how they present to you.
Okay.
But it's not for everybody's. It's not everybody's cup of tea. So not everybody, I would say, would be interested in psychiatry, and not everybody in fact survives in psychiatry. Many times we have seen people dropping out in the middle of the course, and not anybody, and if at all somebody completes the course, we have seen quite a few stop practicing psychiatry and probably shifting to other specialties as well. So it's not everybody's cup of tea.
So you gone to London after your degree?
Yeah.
How was the studies over there?
Compared to what we see in India.
Okay.
And then on top of that, once we do our basic training, then we have to establish ourselves there, because we will be competing with the best of the world when you go to UK or US, because there will be people coming from all over the world, not just one country. So you are competing with the best of the world, trying to prove yourself.
Okay.
So there the training is slightly different, but in a way, because we have inherited most of our cultural background things with regards to our upbringing, living style, everything from British, because they were here for more than 200 years, it helps us to settle down quickly on a social side. But when it comes to professional side, as I said, you have to compete with the best of the best and try to prove yourself, because you can't go there and then fail and come back. So there's no coming back there. So once you're there, you're there. You have to compete, you have to fight, you have to get to a level where you will be recognized by the British. So it's like aiming and going there and trying to prove to a British that is better than the British.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Do you have any friends from UK?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends, not just Indians, from other parts of the world who are settled with.
Who are sharing the same subject or different?
Yeah. We all share the same faculty, so same subject will be there. So most of us, I have friends from other countries, including Pakistan, Middle East, everywhere. So even from British guys themselves, still we are in contact with them, and they keep in touch with me, update me of what's going on. So it's an everyday thing, like, now because of social media, it's easy to be in touch with everybody. So in that way, it helps us to settle down, and we just still maintain contacts.
Are the people cool with Indians, or you felt any racism, something kind of?
Well, I can't say we do face racism professionally. So in that sense, you don't see that. But on a personal level, somewhere here and there, bits and pieces, you may be exposed to certain racial tinge here and there, but I don't blame it. So it's not like saying that...
One or two experiences, can you please share?
Well, I still remember once we had been to in central London McDonald's, and then with my family, and I had that time my son was very small, and then a few teenagers, white British teenagers, were making fun of us, and then they started throwing things on us. And my child, he didn't even know what was happening, because he didn't understand why we were getting targeted. It was a very bitter experience, because it doesn't happen to everybody. Maybe we were at the wrong place with the wrong guys at the time.
I think it's long back, right?
Yeah. That was, I think, almost 15, 20 years ago when we first went to...
I think there will be some change now.
Yeah, definitely things have improved.
Because how the foreigners see India is different now, way behind, right?
Yeah. So people have started accepting us, because initially there was a bit of paranoia when others went there. So now the British have accepted us. So I don't see any big problem now, but 20 years ago we did feel and sense some racial things here and there.
You also worked there or only gone for study?
No, I was working. Once we finish our studies, we continue to work. So,
Okay. Is it like intern?
No, that was only in the beginning.
Okay.
Once you finish that part, you start climbing the ladder. There will be promotions and there will be posts as you start going up.
Okay.
So finally, you reach what's called consultant post.
So that's your first job.
Yeah.
So what, if you don't mind, can you share your first pay and how did you felt about that?
Okay. My first salary, I think, maybe it was like, in Indian rupees, I think it was like 4 lakhs per month. And then, but once you go, once all the cuttings go and once you spend money for your living, you will just end up with very few pounds. So I don't say that that was a big money,
okay,
but that was a beginning. So the interesting part was when we all went there, we went from small middle class families and we wanted to do something for ourselves. So not many of us will take money from here. So we just go there and think that we'll do something and live.
Mm-hmm.
And being doctors, we go there, we can't go and do some manual labor to survive. So we had to live. So there were times we used to just eat once, maybe twice a day, that's all. And most of the time it was like a free meal, either go to some Gurudwara and eat freely in the evenings or go to some temple and eat, but survive.
Okay.
So that's how life starts there.
Okay. Do you find Indian temples there?
Yeah, quite a few are there, but most in my area in London where I was there, these temples were built by Sri Lankan Tamils. So they were like more South Indian style of temples, and I still remember on a Tuesday evening and a Friday evening you get prasadam. So those 2 days you will end up in the queue to just eat it and survive. The rest of the days go to a Gurudwara, Langar, and do some work in the Gurudwara and eat those roti or chapati, whatever they give. So that's how you start your career there, trying to struggle, settle down, get a job, fight with the best in the world, try to prove yourself, because you don't get the job that easily there. Once you get it, then you start climbing the ladder. It's a big different job.
Yeah. How many years you been there?
Almost 15.
You've been in London for 15 years.
Yeah.
So which year you came to India?
2015, I think.
2015. So after coming here, what are the differences you faced and what are the comfort zones you experienced there?
Well, the biggest difference is driving. So you don't, driving in
That's
India,
left side,
especially
right?
no, it's right
It's
side,
right
but
only, right?
it's not like this chaotic driving style you find in Hyderabad.
Okay.
So you don't know who is coming from right, who is coming from left, where they don't give signals, they don't do. So first 6 months was chaotic for me. I really went mad I was screaming at everybody because nobody was following any rules. Then I understood this is how you live here and this is how you have to do. So I started doing the way, get to their way now.
Okay.
So now in that way that was okay. Professionally, I don't see much difference. I was happy there. I'm more happy here. In the sense we have, our own people living around. We have friends, relatives, which you miss them there. So in that way, I feel more comfortable in that sense. Professionally, working style is slightly different in London, slightly different here. There, the accountability is more, so you will be under pressure all the time. Comparatively, here the accountability is not that much, so you have a free hand. You can do things, you can experiment, you can do this and that, and there it's not possible.
Okay. So, what is your first case and how did you felt about it?
First case in India, or are you asking about abroad?
First we'll start with there because you started working there.
First case, I think I was seeing some African guy who has come to UK that time, and there was from, I think that guy was either Sudan or Ethiopia, and they were trying to get asylum there because they didn't have any papers or anything. So they just walk in and then try to apply for asylum, hoping to get some citizenship or something to make them stay, because you know how bad Africa is. So these guys, when they come there, some of them go into depression because they're struggling to get food, they're struggling for everything. There's a big doubt whether they will be there or they will be deported. So that I think that was my first case, and where my professor had asked me to analyze that guy and see what's wrong with him. And then he had a big family, there were children with him, and it was straight for a depression case because I was trying to understand. Psychiatry was new to me there. So, but it was not a very complicated case because the cultural background, it touches you, you can understand, it's very kind of similar to third world countries like India and Africa. We all come in the same.
It's like you're working as an individual there, or you're working for a firm?
No, it's like, in UK you'll have what's called trust. So each area will be monitored by one trust.
Okay.
So that is through government. So all the jobs are government. So there's no private there.
Okay.
So you are working for the government, and then initially you start your career, you will be under supervision under some senior doctors. So you will start your career as a trainee, then once you finish your training, then you start climbing the ladder to become what's called consultant. So once you become a consultant, that means you are the boss.
Okay.
So it takes a while to get to that post. Some are very lucky. If you do really well, you can get to that post very quickly.
Yeah.
I was one of them. I was lucky to get to that post very quickly. So once you get to the consultant post, you are the boss. You have to monitor everything. Okay. You have to take care of a set population. Like say the whole of Jubilee Hills and Banjara Hills and all would be under one consultant. So any problems in that area, they will come to see you.
Okay.
So like that.
In 15 years, what have you observed or what have you learned?
Well, you learn a lot of things. You learn a lot about life, first of all. See, life is not easy anywhere. So people think that, this guy is abroad, so he is just plugging money and then he can just send to you and everything. That's not life goes by. So you learn what is life. And I think everybody should be exposed to outside world because it makes that person complete. He knows the ins and outs of it. He empathizes with what's, because he goes through everything, all those emotions. So in that sense, it's good. And then you learn about life, and then that's a stepping stone.
Okay. On whose idea you traveled there?
Well, I think I had a friend, and I had this habit of following him everywhere. So what was happening was many times wherever he goes, I used to go to along with him or just follow him.
Okay.
And this guy actually, I remember when we had finished our MBBS, he went to Kerala, so I went to Kerala as well.
Okay.
And then from there I came back. Then after our post-graduation, he went to UK, so I followed him. But unfortunately, every time what used to happen was, he used to go first and then I used to follow him, but as soon as I used to land there, he used to come back to India. So this actually happened in UK also. It happened in Kerala also. I still remember I went after, because he went to Kerala from here, so I went with him, after him in fact. And then once I went there, he came back. So I was struggling in Kerala, trying to understand, learn the language. The same thing happened in UK. So as soon as I landed, he came back. So this is how, because it was my friend who I used to follow. So that's why I ended up there.
So comparing your workforce there and here, what are the difference you have seen? Because the kind of people giving importance to psychiatry. So is there the people here take the same responsibility towards themselves if they are distressed? So they should be thinking that we have to go to psychiatry. The people are here, who are here, do think the same, or there is a difference in ideology?
Well, the thing is, the stigma attached with mental health, because is there everywhere, all over the world. It's not like in Britain they will come straight to you. It happens that there also people take a while to come to you, but India it's more.
Okay.
In India, because of lack of awareness, not just stigma, it's just lack of awareness, illiteracy and other things. What happens is, not everybody, despite having problems and distress, despite suffering from depression or anxiety, come to us straight. So it takes a while for them. In India, we have cultural issues as well. For example, if there is any problem, they first run to some soothsayer or temple or a dargah, trying to do some black magic things and this and that, hoping that it's because of that. And only then after a while they realize there is some medical problem, and then they start coming to us. So there is a lag in that way, and it's a cultural thing. It's still there. So it's not that now because we are a bit more advanced, we are well.
Is there any difference there and here in your field?
Yeah, I mean, there you have a proper system.
Oh.
You have a support network. You can ensure that the patient will be well taken care in the community. So we have social workers under you, occupational therapists, psychologists. There's a whole team under you who will take care of the patients. Here it's all one-man show. So you need to be good enough to take care of the patient right from the beginning. Here the treatment is more on medicines. You don't rely much on counseling and therapy. So every patient comes to you, you just assume that the patient has to be treated quickly. And if he doesn't show much response, so he will jump to some other doctor. So there's always that problem here.
Do you think there is a need for more psychiatrists in our society?
Yes, definitely. I mean, now the government has taken initiation, and in last 5 years at least, there is a huge jump in the number of seats in psychiatry in all the medical colleges. So in the future we'll be seeing a lot of psychiatrists trained coming out now. So it's a good sign, because as the world is moving, we need more mental health professionals. If you look at, say, for example, on the WHO criteria, heart diseases are the number one, and then next number two is depression. So this is how the criteria is. So number two is depression. That means every person, no matter sometime or the other in their life, they are going to get depressed. So you need some mental health professionals to take care of them. So it's not like you just rely purely on psychiatry for only taking care of mental health, because if you don't balance mental health, it's also going to affect their physical health.
See, there are a number of fields in medicine. So how a person should decide that yes, this problem is related to psychiatry, this problem is simple tooth, heart and all, these are clear, because there are in stress and psychology, so there are multiple subjects. So what is that they have to learn to go to a certain doctor? This belongs to this.
Well, I mean, if you think about patient side, patients, as I said, slowly with their experience, they understand that there is something mentally wrong with the person, and they somehow end up with us. With fellow colleagues and professionals, once they start seeing the patient, based on the patient's presentation, they start treating them for physical health, but sometimes they realize that they are missing something, because no matter what you give, the fellow keeps coming back with headache or keeps coming back with stomachache, and all the investigations may be coming normal, or despite giving all the medicines, that pain doesn't come down. And then they start thinking, is it something to do with the mind, and they start, sending them to us. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to that.
Okay. So how would you treat a patient with depression? How do you treat a person with depression?
Well, first of all, I think we need to diagnose the patient, whether the patient really has depression, and then once he is diagnosed with depression, then we have to start looking at whether there is any cause for it. Depression can be reactive, where that will be a cause, and then the patient on reaction becomes depressed, or there is something called endogenous, means there is no cause for depression, but still the patient can become depressed because of some chemical changes in the brain. So we go by, say, first diagnosing depression, seeing whether there's any cause for depression. Suppose if you can identify any cause, treat the cause. For example, there is some family discord or some marital problem or some other thing, you try to handle it, then automatically depression subsides. If there is no such cause can be identified, then it's more of an endogenous type, then we have to treat them with medicines and other therapies, and then whole treatment modality changes. And every time, despite depression being a common thing, each individual's depression is slightly different to another one. So the treatment depends on each individual, his personality, his mental makeup, his background, his family structure. So everything will be taken into consideration before we start treating or before we start making a treatment plan. So it's not that every patient will get the same medicine, same type of treatment, same type of counseling. So everything changes based on the individual's presentation and the individual's background and his mental makeup.
So what would, the next question, what would you do if a patient disagreed with your diagnosis or refused treatment?
Well, it's a common thing in India. See, now thanks to Google, everybody comes to self-diagnose. So if you diagnose somebody with something, you'll go and start Googling and trying to find out whether the doctor is right or wrong. So obviously, especially IT professionals, we have a big headache with them, trying to make them understand that they have a problem. First of all, they don't accept that they got a problem, and if there is a problem, they don't accept that it needs treatment. So
do they also argue with you?
Of course.
In Google, I have seen this. You are not giving the same.
Yeah, so it's a very common thing, and I think every doctor goes through it. We call it Googleopathy. So, like, everybody goes through that nowadays, and then he starts dictating you that my diagnosis is not this. And once you write treatment, every medicine you will go and check, see whether there is effects, side effects, and then he comes back and saying this and that. So it's more like, doctor has become like an advocate trying to argue than actually treating them. On the lighter side, the doctor becomes richer because the illness which could have been better in 3 months, it takes 6 months because all the confusion he brings in by reading about Google. So if you could have paid for 3 months, you would be ending up paying for 6 months, either to the same doctor or to some other doctor. But it does happen. So you're losing more money by Googling than actually saving yourself.
And next question. How would you approach the case of patients who have multiple mental health issues?
Well, the thing is, like, if somebody has got multiple mental health issues, we have to start identifying in a hierarchy, like, what is the most serious one or what is the most disturbing one as the first one, and then start putting the other ones behind it, and start addressing with the most serious or the most disturbing one first. So that's how we try to help patients with multiple mental health issues.
So it's 20 years of your career as a doctor, right?
Yeah.
So in these 20 years, are you happy that I'm achieved, and are you full, or you still have any future plans that I have to do many things like that?
Well, I mean, everybody is happy. Whether I'm content with what I have already, I can't say, because once you say you are content, then that spark just goes off, and then you will go into that retirement mode where you don't have the same zeal or enthusiasm to help your patients. Once you say I'm done, then it doesn't matter. Once the patients come to you also, you don't feel like doing a great job for the patient. At the end of the day, if you lose that spark, you don't have that sense, that satisfaction that you are treated and helped the patient and his family. So contentment is a different level, and I don't think I'm content yet. But am I satisfied with my professional and personal career? Yes, definitely.
Oh, that's really nice. In your service, for you, after completing your degree, what are your thoughts? Is it like I have to service the society, or I have to earn more money?
Well, if you want to ask me honest thing, well, I think initially everybody starts on the money line only.
Okay.
So once halfway down the line, then the service motto comes in as well.
Okay.
But everybody, because medical field is quite complex, you don't get a medical seat just like that. You have to put a lot of effort, and a lot of people like me also come from very, low background, low economic level. So we have our own ambitions about earning money, and of course the parents' expectations will be very high on us. So they think that overnight is going to earn money. So that's how, start. Everybody, I think, like me, starts with money line, and then the service motto automatically comes in.
Thank you very much. That's really informational from you. Thank you so much, sir. We have known each and every important detail or the experiences what you have done in your educational and your work services. That's really interesting. Thank you so much.